Hi, I'm Chris Grimm. I've been an executive coach. Actually, I've been a coach for executives and others like you for 28 years. This is Deep Work Fast. Every week, I bring you tools, concepts, and ideas, 20 minutes or less, that will help you in all the parts of your life, both professionally and personally, in all the roles you play: parent, partner, boss, team member, all of them. I want you to be the best that you can be. I want you to live a satisfying life, happy if possible, maybe some fun in there. And this week, I want to talk about living a pain free life, the second half of your life, regardless of where you are right now. So if you're a young person, or you consider yourself to be a young person right now, and you go, oh, I don't have to worry about that, please, 20 minutes or less, just listen to what I have to say. Click the link in the chat, which is for my blog about this topic. It's about a 2-minute read. You can't wait around this one. And for those of you who are what you believe in the second half of your life, if you're already not doing some of the things I want to talk about, I want you to reconsider that, pick a few things, because we don't have to end our life. And when I say end our life, by the way, I don't mean like on our deathbed. I mean 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, regardless how long you live. You don't want the second part of your life to be miserable. And historically, we have believed collectively that the second half of our life was not going to be that great. It was very, very common, and still is. I'm 57, I hear people all the time, but I remember my father-in-law, who's now passed, saying, the golden years are tarnished. It was believed that the second half of our life, our body would be achy, that bad things would start to happen, that we would start to feel regret, and that those things were inevitable, that we couldn't do anything to prevent them. And then some people would say, and then you die. Well, I'm here to help you understand, if you don't already, that that is not true. And in fact, you have a lot of control over what your life is going to be like tomorrow, 5 years from now, 15 years from now, 50 years from now. Yes. So I want to talk a bit about that, because there are some things that I find in coaching, I coach a lot of people, that they're still not aware of, mostly because everybody's busy. And I think if you have a day job, most likely you are very, very, very busy and distracted. And then when you get home at night and on the weekends, there's only so much you can think about. And so even though it's 2025 when I'm recording this, and there's a lot of people wearing those rings that monitor their vitals and do all those things, which, by the way, we're going in the right direction. People are starting to care about their health and well-being more. There are more tools out there today for both physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual wellness, all parts of us, than there ever have been, or at least now they're more accessible because of technology, and because it's become more acceptable in most countries to talk about those things, whereas for generations that was not okay. And so the good news is, here we are, and you can have a lot more control than maybe your parents or grandparents did around how they were going to live the rest of their life. So let's just talk a little bit about some of the things that we need to overcome, because we are still living our lives, most of us, specifically if you work a job where you sit all the time here and you're on Zoom or whatever, it's a fairly sedentary lifestyle, and that is working against us. So I want you to just maybe take an audit of how you spend your time. Many people that I interact with, myself included, we spend too much time sitting. Our bodies were not made for this. And so I want you to just take an audit, maybe even in a week, pay attention to how much time, what percentage of time you spend sitting versus standing or moving in some way. So our lifestyle is definitely working against us, and we need to do something about that, because that definitely creates some of those aches and pains, way more than you realize. And for a long time, it was kind of trendy for people who were working in offices before COVID, that was the carpal tunnel, and repetitive stress on our body oftentimes was looked at, because companies didn't want to have people out on leave because of job-related illnesses or injuries. And if it happened at work, people oftentimes could make an argument that it was for that. And now many people aren't working in an office, but those things are still possible. So the fact that that's a reality, it kind of proves what I'm saying, right? Sitting at a desk, working at a computer, puts a lot of stress on our body repetitively that didn't exist before. And so we will end up paying for that later if we're not paying attention. The second one is poor nutrition. Now I want to talk beyond the obvious here. I'm not saying you're going to McDonald's all the time or eating any fast food, no offense, McDonald's. What I'm really talking about this is that most people have kind of a roller coaster relationship with nutrition. They're good for a while, they go off the rails. Many people talk to me about it in coaching, because I usually coach people for 6 to 12 months at a time. And so if I go through a whole year, I watch people go on vacation and they go off the rails and they eat and drink everything they want, and then they come home and they need to detox, and then we go into the holidays. You know what I'm talking about. So I want you to monitor that. I want you to see how consistent your nutritional intention is. Like, how well do you manage what's going in your body? Is it great when you're at home and bad when you travel for work? I often have that problem, by the way. It's really difficult for me to maintain my program when I'm traveling and staying in hotels, and I have business dinners and lunches. You know the deal, if you know the deal. So I want you to just really pay attention to that, because of course what happens is that even though we think that roller coaster is normal, the long-term effect on us won't be great, right? So if you spend more time on the road and you find that you drink a lot of alcohol, for instance, when you are on business dinners and business trips and conferences, etc., and year after year after year you're having that wear and tear on your body, it will have an effect, and it's going to show up later, and we don't want that, right? We want the pain-free end of our life. The next thing, I just mentioned alcohol. So I do want to talk to you about this. I'm not going to ask you to give up anything. I'm just saying, can you be the observer of what kind of chemicals you're putting in your body? Do you know why you're doing that? Has it become so habitual that it's just a part of your program? Or are you intentional about that? That is really something to know. Of course, we know there are long-term effects of all kinds of chemicals that we put in our body, whether it's Tylenol or vodka. So you should be aware. And so I want to create awareness, because I want you to have the life that you want at the end of your life, and paying attention to it now and knowing what you're doing, and then asking yourself, like, am I making this choice on purpose, or is it just this like subconscious patterning and habitual, this is what me and my friends do, or this is what we do at conferences, and this is how people behave, and whatever. Like, are you doing you, or are you just like caught up in the process? You should know. The next one is stress and recovery. Let's talk about both of those things. So stress is something that most of us accept as normal. When I'm in organizations that are highly dysfunctional, it's fascinating to hear people tell stories and justify, rationalize really crazy things and levels of stress that our bodies were not designed to have. And I have met people that are soldiers, man. Some of you are enduring physical, mental, and emotional stress on a regular basis for years and years and years on end. I want you to ask yourself why you're doing that. I want you to Pay attention to the impact it's having on you. It most likely has impact on your sleep. It most likely has impact on your weight. If you have coping mechanisms that you use, look, you could have to exercise 2 times a day because your stress level is so high. I know people who do this. Maybe after work, you have to have 3 martinis so that you can end the night calm and able to sleep or not get in an argument with your spouse and your kids because your day is so stressful. Again, not judging. I am saying, do you know? And are you doing this on purpose? The second part of this that I want to bring into your awareness is around recovery. Most people don't have recovery practices in their life. Now, you may not have heard about this. I'm not talking about rehab or recovery. I am talking about how well do you allow yourself to recover, like after a really super stressful work event. Maybe you've just come from a leadership conference. Maybe you were the person who organized the whole leadership conference and it was super stressful for like 2 weeks up until the event. And then at the event, all kinds of things went wrong and people were nuts and you were stressed out. You were stressed out for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. And you had no rest and you didn't sleep well. And then what? Did you plan your recovery? Did you take a few days off? Did you take a few days off and actually take them off? Do you have practices in your life that help you recover from anything overly stressful? In your home, do you have safe spaces where you can be alone? Where you can just chill? Where you can sleep without interruption? Those are called recovery practices. Our body actually needs them. And most people have really poor, if not maybe no recovery practices. So I'm bringing that into your awareness so you pay attention. Last one is sleep. Not sleeping well seems to be normal. Most people talk about it. There's lots of products on the market to help you fix this problem because why everybody has this problem. Rarely do I hear people say, I always sleep like a baby. Rarely. And some of the people who are telling me that have to take medication to sleep like a baby. So I want you to audit that. I want you to know, how well do I sleep? Do I know the conditions that it requires for me to sleep well? When I sleep, do I wake up rested? Do I know how to rest? Great questions for you to ask yourself. And do you have to take vacations every year to rest for like 2 weeks because everything else is such a grind and you know it takes a toll on your body? And maybe the doctor's telling you you have high blood pressure. Maybe the doctor's telling you your stress is going to create a nervous breakdown. Whatever. Just know your version of this story. And the good news is there's a whole bunch of things that are available to you, many of which don't cost money, that you could adopt by just taking on a new habit that could meaningfully improve all the things that I just spoke about. Number one thing, maybe you've never heard of this. I'm happy to tell you about it. So, energy management. So by now, you probably know you're kind of like a battery. And so when you feel that depletion at the end of the day or after a big argument or after a whole series of meetings in a row where you feel like I can't function anymore, like I just feel like everything just got sucked out of me, I hit a wall. I've heard all those things. You've said them. So we run on our own battery power, our energy. So if our energy is low, oftentimes we have things that help us pick it up. Like caffeine is a great example, or people use energy drinks. So you can manage your energy proactively by doing a whole host of things that are free, that you could do in your own home, your hotel room, before you get on a Zoom, after you get on a Zoom. I call it energy hygiene. Oftentimes people call it energy management. It's you learning about your energy flow all day, every day. There are apps to help you measure it if you care. You can look this up. It's easy to do, but most people don't know that it exists. And once you learn about your natural energy patterns, like what times of the day are you going to be more productive? And it's predictable. It's the way your system is wired. It's the way your energy flows up and down. You know, you may know people who say, I'm a morning person. Other people say, no, I'm not a morning person. I'm terrible. But boy, I stay up late at night and I get tons of stuff done. That's energy. That's your personal energy. So energy hygiene or energy management is something you should know about. It is 2025 when I'm recording this. By now, you know it exists. It is not woo-woo. It is incredibly practical. And any successful, highly optimized, high-performance organization, leader, and person knows about this and is doing it on purpose. So I invite you to now take on some energy practices. And it doesn't mean you have to meditate all the time. You could, if that's the right thing for you. For some people, it is more quiet time in the morning. For other people, it is different kinds of exercise, not just cardio and weightlifting. Maybe you need some yoga. Maybe you just need stretching. Maybe you just need to swim. Find the thing that is going to help your energy management so that your days feel better and you don't end the day depleted every night. The second thing is nervous system regulation. So there are things out there. I prefer breath work. It is basically free. It is you learning how to manage your breath by maybe participating or, like I said, in a class or doing it on your own in a patterned rhythmic breathing that helps you learn about how you can manually manage your nervous system into the most calm and productive state that you need to function optimally. Instead of just doing what we usually do, which is what I'm doing right now, which is we tend to breathe fairly shallow because we talk a lot. When we're talking, we're not breathing deeply. We're not optimizing this system. We're just running. So I want you to take some time, learn about how your nervous system works, try some breath work. If you need something, ask me. I've got lots of resources on that, or of course you could search it. I also want you to think about movement and food as medicine. Movement and food as medicine, not because something's wrong with you, but because we want to prevent anything being wrong with you. You need to move every day, not just sit in this chair for 8 hours on Zoom meetings or going to the office and sitting in your car and then in an office all day long in meetings. Stand up. Stand up for some meetings if you need to, but get to movement in your life, and you can't just do it on the weekends or at night. In the daytime, you need to move. I know people, by the way, very successful people, who plan their meetings and then give themselves a buffer in between the meetings so that they can walk around. Go out in the parking lot if you're in an office. Go down a floor, walk around their office while they're on a phone call. Don't take all Zooms. Do some phone calls. Walk. So whatever you have to do to get movement, I know it may sound like I'm telling you something you already knew. Maybe ask yourself why you're not doing it. The other thing is food as medicine. Highly intentional eating is a really great idea. Looking at what you're eating, balancing what you're eating. A really wonderful philosophy is called Blue Zones. If you haven't heard of it, there's a Netflix special that you can watch. There's a book called Blue Zones. There's a Blue Zone cookbook. The gentleman, Dan Buellner, I should know that. You will find it very, very quickly. Studied all the places in the world where there are more people who have lived over 100. Not just one person. Like their community has people who live over 100. And they studied why that was. Movement is one of the critical pieces of it. Moving all the way until into their hundreds, their 90s, and they're over 100 years old. And then, of course, the food that they're eating and how they're eating, what they're eating, when they're eating, all of those things. You should look into it. It's really interesting. I think that you will be compelled to think about some of those same practices for yourself. The next thing is that stress management recovery toolkit. So I'm going to urge you to think about stress differently, not to just accept that work sucks and work should be stressful, because that's not actually true. I am not saying you won't have pressure, because I think any job that's worth it is going to be challenging, interesting, problem solving. I coach people. I know we all like that. We want to feel accomplished. We want to add value. And if it's too easy, well, we don't want that. But that doesn't mean you have to be overly stressed out of your mind to the point that it's impacting you physically. So I urge you to think about stress in new ways and to make a deal with yourself to have a recovery toolkit that is more than just those 3 martinis at night or Netflix and chill or whatever it is you might be doing now. Creating more of a life for yourself now so that later you have a vibrant, exciting, amazing life all the way to the end. Okay, thank you for being with me. Grab the blog if you haven't already. I hope you check out Blue Zones at least and all the other things I mentioned. If you want to know more, put it in the chat, or you know where to find me. I'm Chris Grimm at Aria Consulting or at the Avi Experience. We do retreats about most of these things too, by the way. So if you need to me to take you away, I can take you to Hawaii, I can take you to Montana, I can take you to Bali, I can take you to Peru, I can take you to all those things so that I can show you all the things that we just went through in an environment where we can protect you. And then you can go home, put them into action. Okay, thank you very much. I'll see you next week on Deep Work Fast.